The thrilling series Game of Thrones ended in 2019. I'm sure movie lovers all around the world enjoyed it. However, the prequel House of the Dragon is currently on, with its events dating back 200 years before the events of the original show. The Game of Thrones series was a success. But haven't you thought to yourself, what were the events that happened behind the scenes? You'd be shocked at the things you'd find out. First up on Behind the Screen Secrets. You never knew that the initial scene had to be remade. The $10 million pilot that showrunners D.B. Weiss and David Benioff shot in 2009, not the one that debuted on April 17, 2011, was the one that was first broadcast. It was well known that the unaired pilot was so terrible that HBO almost abandoned the project. No one knew what they were doing or what the heck that was, as Jaime Lannister actor Nikolai Coster-Waldau remembered in James Hibbert's behind-the-scenes book Fire Cannot Kill a Dragon, Game of Thrones, and the Untold Story of the epic series. However, the producers were able to save the situation by reshooting around 90% of the original footage and cast new actors, where Michelle Fairley played Catelyn and Emilia Clarke played Daenerys. Next up is the Season 1 script's disappearance in the mail. George R.R. Martin believed there was foul play involved when 2 Season 1 scripts went missing in the mail in 2011. On his blog, he said that both scripts were lost when the package was ripped open at one end. He was sure that the scripts were taken. Despite viewers being asked to keep an eye out for the missing documents, the scripts to date have not been located. Next up is how the movement of the dragon was created. The way dragons moved was an issue. The special effects team had to find a solution to the issue. The group decided to use geese as their model for the gigantic monsters. Sven Martin, who was the effects supervisor, told Wired that he observed large goose animals on the ground and how they played with their wings while not being able to fly. And also, there was difficulty in getting a character to play Arya Stark. Working with kids and teenagers in the film industry is never easy because they have more constraints on working hours. Casting directors, however, faced the issue of attempting to predict how the performers would develop for a long-running program like Game of Thrones. Arya and Sansa started out so young, but we knew if the show worked, the characters were going to travel to incredibly dark places. So it was a tough thing. Up next on Behind the Screen Secrets You Never Knew is how Emilia Clarke created an epic, improvised speech in a fictional tongue. The Mother of Dragons had to deliver a monologue in the imaginary Valyrian language in the scene from the Season 5 episode Kill the Boy, where she had just ordered the death of one of the 3 Meereenese noblemen, thought to be plotting against her. Director Jeremy Podeswa said there was a lot of planning and thought that went with the kind of event, and that she had a lengthy speech before she set the guy on fire. Emilia was later asked if she could figure out a way to handle the task in Valyrian, as she realized it was a huge task. Emilia responded by saying that she could. Up next is how vegetarian meals were served. There's more to Tyrion Lannister's feast than meets the eye, despite the fact that Peter Dinklage's character was known for his love of alcohol, females, and feast. Dinklage refused to renounce his principles for the program. Therefore, whenever you see the character consuming meat, it was actually manufactured from a plant-based substitute. In addition to serving as an ambassador for numerous organizations such as PETA and Cruelty Free International, Dinklage has openly discussed his transition from vegetarianism to veganism. Up next is how the dead were unable to breathe. With a large cast of extras, stunt performers, and of course, the main characters, the long-awaited Battle of Winterfell in the last season was a masterpiece of direction. The stuntmen and extras had a challenging job to do in the bitter weather, since they had held their breath after they had been killed, so that their icy breath wouldn't be visible. Up next is how drones were utilized to stop spies. As the series continued, viewers got craftier and attempted to obtain behind-the-scenes information. According to location manager Robert Boak, someone tried to enter one of the sets every 3 hours. The security crew had grown from 1 to 2 by the end end of the season, and they used their own drones for hunting down spies. Do you know it took 7 months to construct King's Landing? The set for Daenerys Rage was constructed over the course of 7 months, and the production designer and art director, Deborah Riley, and her group put a lot of effort into achieving that. After a few days of filming, the entire set was detonated. The episode director, Miguel Sapochnik, said he felt it was too early to blow things up during the documentary. Up next on Behind the Screen Secrets You Never Knew is how Season 8 featured a real head of snow. For Season 8 of the program, which was primarily set at Winterfell, Del Reed, also known as the Snowman, was hired to make sure that each scene had enough snow, hence his position as head of snow. When it snowed in Northern Ireland in real life, Reed had a bit of a nightmare because the snow on the set was actually created only with paper and water. Up next is how IKEA rugs were employed by the costume designers as fur. The keys to Kit Harington's residence needed to be immediately duplicated. In July 2012, the Jon Snow actor injured his leg when he attempted to enter his flat after he misplaced his keys. When Season 3 of Game of Thrones was filmed, in which Jon Snow played a rather important, pardon the pun, role, producers hired doubles for walking scenes, and costume designer Michelle Clapton had to alter his shoes to fit his cast. Michelle Clapton claimed it was impossible to make a boot to cover the leg because it was a huge white foot. Also, his costume was made such that his boot was removable, so he could tie it to his legs instead of stepping into it to put it on. And considering the pain he was in, he did pretty well. GOT is regarded as one of the most costly TV shows ever produced, with a budget of roughly $10 million per episode. However, the cast still went to everyone's favorite low-cost home furnishings retailer to buy the show's costumes. The Night Watch capes are actually reused IKEA carpets, according to Clapton, who revealed this during a 2016 Getty Museum event in Los Angeles. She revealed that these capes were actually IKEA carpets. She said they took whatever they could take. They removed the fur and hair, attached sturdy leather straps, and then they disassembled them. IKEA shared images of some of its staff members in their cozy capes as a response to the comments. Staines received a cameo appearance in the show and played the map maker in the scene between Cersei and Jaime in the same episode. As a result, it was an illustration of how reality could imitate art. Up next on Behind the Screen Secrets You Never Knew is cartography. The map of the realm that was located on the floor of Cersei's map room was given significant attention in the Season 7 premiere, Dragonstone. This was created by Jim Staines, a show graphic artist who collaborated closely with the rest of the production staff. Next on our list of Behind the Screen Secrets You Never Knew is that two characters couldn't both appear together in a scene. Why? Let's find out. One of the most fascinating, essential details regarding the production of the 7th season of Game of Thrones was that it applied to the entire program. Characters gather in the Dragon Pit in King's Landing in the season finale, The Dragon and the Wolf, which is a turning point for the program. One character left the scene. Bronn, played by Jerome Flynn, left the meeting in the Dragon Pit for no other reason than because Flynn's contract forbade him to appear in scenes with Lena Headey, who her contract also forbade her from doing so because of their tumultuous personal relationship. Marriage may be challenging. That was something that Game of Thrones has long known. Up next is that the shortest episode actually cost more to produce. The 7th season of Game of Thrones was notable because it had only 7 episodes, the lowest duration of any episode at the time. The wait for this season was extremely long, and production was delayed to allow for more accurate weather. Despite the intense anticipation, one of the 7th season's episodes held the distinction of being the show's shortest episode. The previously mentioned Spoils of War only lasted for 50 minutes. Fortunately, it was still a breathtaking episode that probably cost the most money to produce. Finally, on the Behind the Screen Secrets You Never Knew is that of the Flaming Sword. The weapons Scenes and symbols most strongly linked to the characters in the series must be mentioned in discussing Game of Thrones. This includes Beric Dondarrion, who appeared in Beyond the Wall, brandishing a flaming sword. Beric held the fiery sword, with all the spirit of a man who came to be linked with it in the final 2 seasons, and wielded it similarly to how Thor wields his hammer, Mjolnir. The sword needed to be recharged every 2 minutes so that it could maintain its flames. It took a tremendous amount of work. You must be surprised by these facts. Who would have guessed that the first scene had to be remade, certain characters had to be replaced, or that the episode with the fewest minutes would cost far more to make? Nevertheless, you are aware of everything now. Subscribe and like. I'll see you in the next video.